Hey y'all, this is Z00222, and this is another GTA car review. So, what car am I going to do today? Well, I've got a special request. So, there's one car that I've had a young man by the name of Cash Worth ask me for. So, I'm going to do this particular video for this man. So, when it comes to sports cars, I've got a ton of them. I've got the very fastest, I've got the very slowest. But the video I'm doing today is on this one. My Corquette D10. That's right, D10, D10 for the win. Now the Corquette D10 is based on the 2019-2020 Corvette Stingray, excuse me. From the looks of it, they did a fantastic job modeling the car. My one complaint is they made it a little bit too low. Now this is the third from the last suspension setting. You can actually make it lower. I decided not to do that with mine because I kind of like the look of a car that kind of looks like it could actually drive. A car that low would scrape and drag and you would have all kind of trouble. I also just chose to go with a convertible. This car, I just kind of thought, like, what would it look like if you went to a showroom and they had one that had all the bells and whistles. So that's kind of what I went with this. And let's go ahead and drive her. And the thing you're going to notice with the Corquette is the acceleration on it is not that good. I mean, it gets to a pretty good top speed. In fact, it's the second fastest sports car in the game behind the Pariah. But it takes its sweet time getting there. Another thing you'll notice with it is the rear end on this car is fairly loose. It's kind of weird because, as you see from the back window, the engine is in the back, which would put more weight under the back tires. You would think that would make the car more stable in the rear. But as you see, the rear end is very, very prone to slide and let loose, making this car very, I wouldn't say hard to drive, but it does not inspire confidence in the turns. It's not planted. I mean, you can do things to compensate for that, steer out of it, feather the gas, all kind of other things, but there's so many other cars in the sports class where you don't have to do that with. It just kind of seems a little bit annoying to have to do that, especially for this car. I mean, other than that, I don't really have a lot of complaints for the car. It's not overly fast. Like, there's some cars that you take through this section and they feel like rocket ships. This car's not one of them. Now, in saying that the rear end gets loose, it does. And it can be annoying, but it's fairly controllable. Like, you're not going to have to fight it too much to get it back in line. It's just you always have to be aware, if you go through a hard turn, that it may step out on you. Oh, what was that? Well, I went a little too hot into that turn and unfortunately paid the price. In a race, that could have been the end of it. Not the most forgiving car, so a beginning driver I think would have a lot of trouble with this car to try to get the maximum performance out of it. And if you're an elite driver, well, there are other cars that I think you could do better with and drive harder with without having to work as hard. I mean, not saying that this is a terrible car. I mean, if you really, really like it and you work for it, I'm sure you can make this work. As for me, I'd rather go with a Mascaro or the Pariah or even the Morgan than this. Now the track I'm on is not one of the easiest tracks. I actually picked this track on purpose as a good way to test out the car, actually show its strengths and weaknesses. I thought there's no point in me going on an easy track and going in straight lines. I wanted a track that undulates and puts the car to the test. Makes it go through some turns and some off-camber, on-camber stuff. Just to see how it handles it. And for the most part, I mean, it's not a terrible car. Once again, it's just for the $1.5 million price that it cost, there are plenty of other cars that can do what it does easier and quicker. Praia would be one, GTO another, a Morgan one more, even the Flash GT. Even though it doesn't have the same speed, but the acceleration is much better and it's a lot more controllable. You see me keep having to check the rear end because it keeps wanting to step out. The brakes are fairly good on this car though. That I like. And in the final stretch, I think we'll give it a little view of the interior. Gauges are pretty basic. I mean, I like the color, but I think they could have done more to make this car unique in the interior. Overall, is this a must-buy? I would say no. It's a good car, but for the money, I think you could do better. And this has been a Z00222 review, and thank you for viewing. And hey, Cash, do better tomorrow.